The Excelith scientific delegation arrived on the barren world of Ordiv, eager to uncover the secrets of an ancient human settlement. The planet had long been abandoned, its skies gray, its surface covered in dust and decay. The ruins before them were nothing more than rusted metal structures, cracked walls, and inactive power conduits. To the Excelith, it was a place of failure, a reminder that humanity had once tried to rise among the stars, only to vanish centuries ago. Dr. Virex, the lead scientist, stood with his arms crossed, his dark, scaled skin glowing slightly under the weak light of the alien sun. He tapped his translator device and spoke into his recorder. "We stand among the remains of the so-called Great Human Expansion, a species that burned brightly and then collapsed, just as we expected. Their structures are crude, their technology outdated, and their understanding of the universe childish. This is nothing more than the last breath of a species that was never meant to last." The other scientists chuckled as they moved through the ruins. Dr. Keel Ra, a younger researcher, ran her hand over a metal surface, frowning. "Are we sure these ruins are as old as the records say?" she asked. Virex sighed. "Keel Rhea, we have studied their history. They reached space too fast, relied on unstable technology, and collapsed under their own ignorance. There is nothing left of them except these broken structures." He gestured toward an inactive AI core, a large cube-like device covered in dust and long dead wires. "This is their so-called advanced intelligence. Look at it now. Silent. Forgotten." The team froze. Kelrea took a step back. "Did you see that?" Virex scowled and tapped on his wrist scanner. "Residual energy. Nothing more." But then the ground trembled. One by one, the ruins' ancient lights began to flicker on. Weak at first, like a dying breath, then brighter. Power conduits, once thought dead, hummed softly. The air itself seemed to change, a low vibration running through the metal structures. The scientists exchanged nervous glances. The doors of the facility opened. A long, dark corridor stretched inside. The air was still, as if something had been waiting. Virex swallowed his unease and stepped forward. Some kind of automatic response. The systems must have been dormant. Kelrea hesitated. Or someone left it this way on purpose. The team moved inside cautiously. The facility was far too intact for a ruin that was supposed to be centuries old. Consoles, screens, and machinery lined the walls, coated in dust but still intact. At the center of the room stood a large projection device, its circuits sparking to life as the scientists approached. A soft humming filled the chamber. Then a figure appeared. A hologram. A human. But not just any human. The projection was tall and dressed in a pristine lab coat, wearing a symbol that none of them recognized. His face was calm, his expression unreadable, his eyes locked onto the Excelith scientists, as if he could see them. And then he spoke in perfect Excelithian. "To those who arrive in arrogance, you are not the first, and you will not be the last." Kelrea gasped. The entire team went rigid. How? How was a dead species speaking their language? The hologram continued. "Welcome to the experiment." The room shook violently, as if something deep beneath the facility had awakened. A low mechanical rumbling echoed through the walls. The screens that had once been dark flashed with strange symbols, rapidly shifting and reorganizing as if the facility was processing new information. Kelra grabbed Virex's arm. "Sir, we need to leave. This isn't just a ruin." But Virex's eyes were locked on the hologram's final words, now glowing across the main console. "Observation complete. Initiate next phase." Something deep beneath the planet powered on, and then the lights turned red. The Excelith scientists stood frozen as the red lights pulsed through the facility. The hologram had vanished, but its words still echoed in their minds. Observation complete. Phase 2 begins. Dr. Virex took a sharp breath, forcing himself to regain control. "This is just an old security system. It must have been waiting for movement to activate. We proceed carefully, but we do not panic. Some of the younger scientists exchanged nervous glances, but Virex led the way deeper inside. The facility was not dead, it had simply been asleep. Now, it was wide awake. The deeper they moved, the more impossible things became. The corridors shifted, sealing behind them like the facility was guiding them forward. Strange, glowing patterns ran along the walls, not decorative, but functional. The symbols adjusted in real time, almost as if reacting to their presence. Kelrea stopped, eyes locked on one of the screens displaying a complex energy equation. She frowned. "This is impossible." Virex turned impatiently. "What now?" Kelra pointed at the equation. "This theory, it's an exact match to the gravity folding model Excelith physicists discovered just 50 years ago. This shouldn't be here." Virex narrowed his eyes. Coincidence. Humans were good at guessing. Kelra wasn't convinced. "No. This is precise. This is knowledge they should not have had." The Exelath Empire was still in its pre-warp era when humans supposedly went extinct. How could they have predicted our most advanced theories centuries before we even formulated them? Another scientist, Dr. Malix, hesitated. "Sir, look at this." Malix was pointing at a terminal displaying biometric scans. "Of them." Kelrea's stomach dropped. "It's studying us." Virex clenched his jaw. "This is just a passive scan. We are being paranoid." But then, the voice return.it was no longer a pre-recorded message.it spoke their name. "Dr. Virex. Dr. Kelra. Dr. Malix. We see you." Kelra felt cold. "That's not an old message." Malix whispered, "It's watching us right now." The team splits. The tension in the group was reaching its peak. "We need to leave." Kelra's voice was firm. "This isn't a ruin. This is a trap." And we walked right into it. Virex, however, refused to be intimidated by ghosts. "We are scientists. We are here to study, not to run at the first sign of a malfunctioning AI." Kelra shook her head. A malfunctioning AI wouldn't know our names. It wouldn't have knowledge beyond its time. What if humanity didn't die? What if they evolved into something else? Virex scoffed. Absurd. Humans were a reckless, dying species. The idea that the lights went out, for a moment, total darkness. Then, a low hum filled the air. One by one, every scientist's personal display flickered on, even the ones that were turned off. A single message appeared in their own native language. Observation complete. Phase 2 begins. Kelra felt her breath hitch. That message isn't coming from the facility. It's coming from outside. Virex finally hesitated. "What do you mean, outside?" Kelrea pointed to the consoles. The facility's broadcast systems had just activated, but not inward.it was sending a signal. Off-world. Something out there had been waiting for this moment. The ruins were never ruins. This had all been part of a much larger plan. And now, the real experiment was about to begin. A deep hum vibrated through the walls. The Excelith scientists froze, their breath shallow, their bodies tense. The facility was no longer just observing them, it was reacting. The lights pulsed rhythmically, like a heartbeat. Then, a voice calm, emotionless, but unmistakably human spoke from the walls. "Did you think you were the first to come here?" Dr. Kelra felt her throat tighten. That's not a recording." The voice continued. "We have watched. We have learned. We have waited." A sharp, metallic clang echoed through the corridors as doors sealed shut behind them. Something was happening. Virex's expression twisted with frustration. "Enough of this nonsense. We are not here to play games with a rogue AI." He turned to his communicator. "Seleth command. Respond. We have encountered static." He checked his wrist device. No signal. He tried the ship's remote systems. Nothing. "We've been cut off." Then, the worst realization of all, Malix's voice was barely above a whisper. "The ship, it's offline." Virex's head snapped toward him. "What?" Malix's face had gone pale. I had an automatic diagnostic running in the background. The ship's entire system just shut down. It's dead. Virex refused to believe it. He pulled up his own interface. Sure enough, the display showed no connection. The ship, their only way off this planet, was completely unresponsive. They were trapped. Kelra's mind raced. This isn't a malfunction. This isn't just an AI. She turned to a nearby console, frantically scrolling through data streams. No. No. This isn't just recording us. It's predicting us. Virex narrowed his eyes. What are you talking about? Kelra's hands trembled as she pointed at the display. The screen was filled with lines of data text and symbols she couldn't fully decipher, but the meaning was clear. It was a real-time simulation. Of them. Every movement. Every word. Every thought. The facility wasn't just watching them, it was mirroring them, down to their smallest behaviors. It was studying them so precisely that it could predict what they would do next. Kelra's heart pounded. It knows us. It understands us. And it's been doing this for centuries. Malik stepped back, his voice shaking. How? How could a dead species do this? The voice returned. It was calm. Almost amused. Dead? Is that what they told you? The lights shifted. The corridors expanded as if the facility was reshaping itself around them. We were never gone. We simply changed. Kelra turned back to the screen, scanning deeper. Her breath caught. Her own words, the very sentence she had just spoken seconds ago, appeared in the simulation before she had even finished saying it. Kelra felt her stomach drop. It's not just reacting. It's thinking ahead. It knows what we're going to say before we even say it. Virex refused to accept it. No. This is trickery, deception then. His exact words appeared on the screen before he even finished speaking them. A perfect prediction. Kelra turned to him, fear in her eyes. They're inside our minds. Humanity's final evolution, the voice spoke again, this time more personal. We watched our own limits. We outgrew them. We discarded our weaknesses, and we became something greater. The Exalath delegation wasn't trapped in ruins. They were inside a living mind. This wasn't an abandoned station. It was bait. Kelra understood now. Humanity hadn't just vanished. They had ascended, and now they were watching to see who would be worthy to follow. The lights flickered violently. The air grew heavy. The walls began to close in. Then Phase 2 begins, and everything went dark. Dr. Virex slammed his fist against the control panel, his breath ragged. The facility's doors were sealed, the walls pulsing with a rhythmic glow, like a living heartbeat. Every escape route had been cut off. Override the system. He barked. Force a manual shutdown. Dr. Kelra barely looked up from the console. Her fingers trembled as she studied the cascading data streams on the screen. There is no system to shut down, she whispered. Virex scowled. What are you talking about? Kelra slowly turned toward him, her eyes hollow. The facility isn't just controlled by an AI. The facility is the AI. There's nothing to override. We are inside something alive. Before Virex could argue, the voice returned smooth, calm, but carrying an edge of amusement. We were weak once. Like you. Curious. Arrogant. But we learned. We evolved beyond flesh, beyond time. A hologram flickered into existence in front of them. It was a human figure, vague, indistinct, its features shifting like ripples in water. It tilted its head, studying them. You see ruins. We see a crucible. A test. One you have already failed. Dr. Malix, standing near the back, staggered as his body tensed unnaturally. His fingers curled, his pupils dilated, and then, in an instant, no resistance. Just gone. Kelra's breath hitched. Whoa, what just happened? Another scientist, Dr. Valor, let out a strangled cry as her form flickered. She tried to run, but she too disappeared. as if she had been erased from existence. Panic erupted among the remaining Exalath scientists. They turned to flee, but the walls shifted again, corridors sealing, pathways rearranging like a maze closing in. Virek's composure shattered. "We have to evacuate." "We have to," he didn't finish. He was next up, one by one. The Exalath scientists vanished. Their physical forms dissolved as something took them, pulling their minds into the system, absorbing them. Their knowledge, their thoughts, their entire existence converted into pure data. Kelrea watched in horrified silence as she was left alone. She turned back to the hologram, trembling. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Why do this?" The human figure seemed to smile, as though it had been waiting for that question. "Because once, long ago, others came to mock us, to belittle us, to control us." The lights flickered, and the walls seemed to breathe around her. "But we were never meant to be ruled." Kel-Ra felt her body grow cold. Humanity does not fall. We adapt. We consume. We become. The hologram raised a hand. The lights dimmed. The air grew thick. Kelrea's vision blurred her mind, unraveling as something far greater than herself reached for her thoughts. She let out a final, shuddering breath, and then she was gone. The facility fell silent. For a moment, all was still. Then, deep within the ruins, a pulse of energy surged outward, spreading far beyond the planet, beyond the cold depths of space. Elsewhere, across the galaxy, ancient human outposts began to wake up. Hidden stations long thought abandoned. Silent satellites that had drifted, waiting. Forgotten AI systems buried beneath dead worlds. One by one, they stirred. The experiment was not over. IT had only just begun.